Hey there, hello and welcome. It is Madeline again talking about reining in the ego. And I'm sure it's not what you think because ego has a lot of layers and I'm going to blow all of those covers off the ego today. If you were with me a moment ago, we're starting over. We're starting this again. And I have my patient corporate friends on the phone with me as usual. So ego, I think we've all heard the word ego before. It's a pretty common part of our vernacular. And it's actually an acronym, which a lot of people don't know, for edging God out, which I think I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But first of all, ego is a part of the mind or a part of our persona, and it comes from the concept that we are body, mind, and spirit. And most of the wisdom traditions, I'm a student of the Vedic tradition and A Course in Miracles, and both of those teach that we are body, mind, and spirit, and that each of those areas of our being has layers, okay? So today we're talking about the mind. The mind has 3 layers, and we cover this in depth in my Primordial Power program. And I'm talking about this today because yesterday I had a super fun conversation with one of my clients who just did this part of the program. And he had awesome questions and we had a fun conversation. And I thought, oh, let me have this conversation with my Facebook friends and my corporate friends today, because this is important because ego gets us into a lot of trouble. And again, I think most of us have heard the word ego. We associate it with arrogance or self-importance, and that's correct. But that's not all, okay? Ego is pretty, it's pretty vast, it's multi-dimensional, and it's very insidious. And you can be not arrogant, not feel self-important, not have any of the attributes that are commonly associated with being egotistical or an egomaniac, and your ego can still be way out of control and causing you harm. Okay, so the mind has 3 layers, as I mentioned. There is the unconscious mind, the intellect, and the ego, which we're going to cover in depth today. And the unconscious mind is the domain of our emotions, our feelings, our desires, and our memories, okay? Live in our unconscious mind. Our mind also has the intellect, right? The intellect is where we make decisions, okay? Where we learn information, where we make decisions. Should I cross the street? Should I not cross the street? Should I buy this? Should I not buy this? Pretty basic. And then there's the ego, okay? The ego is all things associated with I or me, your persona, okay? So on the surface, that's not a bad thing, right? So what does that look like, right? So that is, so that's your name, your title, your possession, your positions, your position, all of those things that you associate that is me, I, or mine, right? So all my ego identifications are, so I am Madeline, I am female, I am a teacher, I am a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, all of those things, right? So I'm an American. I may have a political affiliation. If I were a sports fan, I would be a Patriots fan because I'm in Patriots country. So all those things are ego associations, okay? So, and again, on the surface, they are pretty harmless, you would think. But once we dive deep and ego gets its hooks into us and buries who we really are, which is that spirit part of us, then it can get into trouble. Can it? Get us into trouble. That's right. So, and what does that look like? Well, all of those things that I just mentioned, again, they're pretty harmless on the surface, but wars have been waged over some of those things, right? Family arguments have been waged over some of those concepts, ideas, associations, right? That tears families or relationships apart. haven't they? So for example, if you have an opinion about something, right? So that's ego, right? And if you're unable to recognize someone else's opinion about the same matter, that's where you get into trouble, right? So you can pretty much be, a kind and compassionate person, right? Not that arrogant egomaniac that we associate with the word ego, making air quotes for my friends on the line, and it can still get you into trouble, right? So what else does ego do? So ego is always looking for danger because it wants to protect itself, right? Ego's primary role is to preserve I or me. And unfortunately, it does that kind of like the reptilian brain does, in always looking for danger, and on the extreme assumes that what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and we're separate from each other, right? So that's a key distinction, is that ego is what separates us from each other, because all of the wisdom traditions, right? All of the wisdom traditions that I know of, I have not explored them all teach that we are all one, right? We're all one, or at the very least, we're all connected, right? We're all connected to each other. Not so for ego. Ego says that we are not connected, that we are separate. Again, that what's mine, that I am me, you are you, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what's yours isn't any good because it isn't mine. And mine is better than yours. Because that's how ego rolls, right? It lives in this judgment and in this comparison mode. And as I've talked about in previous lives, that's not a battle that you can win. You cannot win the ego's game. The only way that you can win the ego's game is to bring more of you out. And that's to bring more of your higher power, more of your spirit, more of your soul, whatever concept you relate to bring more of the real you out. That's loving, kind, compassionate, and generous, right? So ego also lives in scarcity mode because it doesn't believe that there is enough for everyone. It either believes that either you've got it or I've got it, and we can't both have it, okay? And so even if you understand that on a conscious level, ego's in there in the background, and it's stirring up the stuff, and it's scaring you, and it's making you fearful, because that's ego's game, right? Is to protect itself, to keep itself in existence, and it does that through fear and negative emotions, primarily fear, because once you know who you really are, which is an extension of spirit and an unlimited being, an infinite being with unlimited potential, right? Then you would know that there's nothing to be fearful of, right? And that there's enough for everyone. But our experiences, our beliefs have tricked us or have led us into experiencing and believing that those things aren't true, right? That we do have reason to be fearful, that there's not enough for everyone, because you may have had experience as such in your history, in your experience. So then ego says, aha, I told you that's true. But essentially, it's not true. When you're coming from your higher self, from your true self, you know that everyone is loving and kind, and that we're all connected, and that when these negative behaviors show up, it's because ego is in the way, and they're afraid of not being loved. At the end of the day, ego is afraid. Ego is keeping us from love, saying that we're afraid of not being loved. So of not receiving love. And then what does that look like, right? So if your ego is out of control, what does that look like? You're riddled with fear and anxiety, okay? If fear and anxiety or anxiety are your emotional state, your emotional home, you're spending time in worry and overwhelm, right? I'm not good enough. I didn't do it right. I don't have enough time. There's not enough for me. What are other people going to think? All things that we've thought about, that we've talked about in previous lives, right? That's ego getting in the way of your joy and your happiness, okay? And once you get into that state of fear, anxiety, overwhelm, you may have these old stories that tell you, I'm not good enough, right? I'm not good enough. I didn't do it right. They're going to be mad at me, whatever your story is. If you like, put your comments in the chat or send me a private message and let me know what is your ego story that is holding you back, okay? Other symptoms of an ego that is out of control is that you complain frequently, okay? Because what's wrong is always available to us, right? And ego thrives on what's wrong, so it can solidify its position in your existence, right? So you complain frequently, and maybe so do the people around you. And this could turn into a pissing match about who's got it the worst, right? So back to that comparison game, right? I've been witness to situations where there's like a complaint fest going on, and people are vying for position of who's got it the worst, right? Who's the fattest? Who's the most tired? Who's got the hardest time? Who's most broke? Who's got the toughest boss or spouse, family, kids? And whatever the story is, right, you can't win that game, right? And there's also the flip side of that comparison game, right? Someone is always going to be richer, prettier, thinner, happier, have a better spouse or partner than you, right? You can't win that game. The joy comes from your true self, from your inner being, from your spirit. Some other aspects that your ego is out of control, okay? You're highly impatient, right? You don't think you should be waiting for anything ever, right? Whether you are in line or at work or on the phone, on hold for a loved one, right? Ego is highly impatient, or you want whatever results that you're working towards, you want them now. They're not coming fast enough. Time, maybe you have time scarcity. That's another source of ego being out of control. If you are in anger, right? So ego shows its ugly head as fear, anxiety, overwhelm. Another way that it shows its ugly head is in anger, right? So you have bouts of anger, or anger is your emotional home. This used to be where I used to live years ago, right? And then, any little thing, you blow up for any reason or no reason at all, right? You're always angry, and people are walking on eggshells around you. This was my story years ago. And then that anger covers the fear and anxiety, which is, I'm going to talk about more next week, I think. But if you're having explosive bouts of anger, or you're angry on a regular basis, and you have these angry reactions to circumstances, and you overreact to circumstances, and then you have a hard time apologizing because your ego won't let you, that's another sign that your ego is in the way. And again, no judgment. The purpose of this talk today is not to judge. The purpose is to help you identify that ego is getting in your way, right? Because if you're in anger, we can't be in a positive state and a negative state at the same time, right? And if your ego is out of control, you're living in a negative state, right? And I posted a couple of days, yesterday, the day before, that we choose our states. We can choose our states. However, if ego is in control and you're in reaction mode, you'll be hard pressed to choose your state. Or even when you realize that you're, oh, darn, I'm in a negative state, you'll be hard pressed to recover and get out of that state. So, okay, before I move on to how to rein in ego, right? So if you're suffering from any or all of those, okay, so anger, overwhelm, anxiety, depression, all of the above, you probably have physical ailments as well, right? So like high blood pressure, okay, high blood pressure is often lifestyle related, emotional related, okay? Anxiety, right? That general anxiety disorder. Although I hate the word disorder. Again, another talk for another state, right? Just the state of being anxious, right? That is not our normal state. And I believe it's an illness that needs to be healed, right? You can't sleep, right? Because your mind is always racing. You're worried about what happened, or you're ruminating over what happened today, yesterday, last week, 10 years ago, whatever the case may be, and it's keeping you up at night. And then keeping you up at night is keeping you up at night, okay? And then again, the personality disorders that I just described, right? Being angry, being anxious, being overwhelmed. I believe those are personality disorders. 10 years ago, I was an angry bitch, right? Okay, and psychiatrists would have sent me to therapy, which I did go to. Again, story for another time. I think that's a personality. That's what are personality disorders. They're not disorders that need to be treated. They are conditions, they're states that need to be healed. And how do you do that, right? You do that through meditation, right? Well, first of all is recognizing, right? That's ego. That's not who I really am. That's not how I want to be, right? That's my ego in the way. How can I bring more of my true self out? Meditation and prayer, okay? Is how you're going to expand that awareness. Meditation and prayer, right? Two sides of the same coin, right? Meditation is, well, prayer is when you talk to God or your higher power, and meditation is when you listen, right? So it's important to do both. And the amazing benefit of meditation as it relates to ego is expanding that awareness, right? Expanding your awareness so when you get caught up in these negative emotions, right? These negative situations that I just described, you can notice, oh, this is not the road that I want to go on, and let me take a detour. As I mentioned, once you get into a negative state, and depending how far down this road you've already traveled, you can be hard pressed to turn yourself around, even if you are meditating and praying on a regular basis. It takes years with meditation and prayer to get the ego at bay, which brings me to step number 2, which is let go of your emotional baggage. What is your emotional baggage? That's your pent up negative emotions: anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame, right? All of those are all ego's games, right? Those are all ego's emotions that it pushes in front of you so it can get its way, okay? You need to let all that stuff go. Hey, Julie, good to see you. Good to see you, girl. Glad you made it. And limiting beliefs, right? Whatever experiences that you've had in your life experience turn into beliefs, and now you believe that they're true. And some of the ones we talked about today are, I'm not good enough, right? That we've talked about in the past. I'm too old, I'm too young, I don't have enough education, I don't have enough experience, whatever the case may be. Those are all ego stories. Thank you, Julie. Love to you. Right? Those are all ego stories that get in our way. You're gonna let all that stuff go, okay? So in my program, I have a process in which one of the first things we do is bring all that stuff up, let it go. It takes a few hours. It does not take years of therapy. It takes a few hours, and then you are on your way to integrating all those changes into your life and then implementing all the practices that we talk about here. And now you're able to implement all the positive behaviors that we talk about here because you've gotten rid of all the stuff that is in your way by letting go of your emotional baggage or emotional turmoil, right? So, and I'm going to tell you how to talk to me about that in just a moment. But if not me, right, if someone else that can help you let go of that stuff quickly, easily, and effortlessly, right? Not through years of therapy or years of meditation, although you should be meditating daily anyway. I'm going to have a special offer about that very soon as well. But, okay, so you're going to be aware that those are the 3 steps for reining in the ego, right? Is 1, recognize that your ego is in the way. Step number 2 is going to help you with that, right? Which is meditation and prayer, okay? Meditation specifically, I'm a proponent of both, but meditation specifically is going to expand your awareness so you will recognize when ego is in the way, okay? And then you can, well, when we talk, we can talk about how to get ego out of the way, okay? And then let go of your emotional baggage. However old you are, especially if you're around my age, I think most of us who are hanging out are about the same age, right? You've got a lifetime of emotional baggage pent up, and you need to let that stuff go. And I have a method that it's quite magical. It's actually magical because you can let all that stuff go in a few hours, and then you have removed the blocks that are keeping you from the life you're meant to live, right? Which is joyful and fulfilling and purposeful and fun, right? We're meant to live and enjoy life every day. So, and if you want to talk to me about how you can live and enjoy life every day, I invite you to book that complimentary breakthrough call with me. You do that by going to MadelineCorrea.com/talk. I'll also put the link in the comments in a little bit after we are done here. And anyway, those 3 things again. So, oh no, let me back up. So this call is not for everyone, okay? So I love you all, right? I love you all, but this call is not for everyone, okay? This call is not for information seekers. This call is for people who have had enough of their ego being in control and want to take responsibility for their lives. You know that you are responsible, you are in charge of your mind and therefore your results, okay? And if you're not getting the results that you want, that's what I can help you with, but you at least acknowledge that that's the position that you're in, right? You are coming from, I'm in charge of my mind, or I want to be in charge of my mind so I can be in charge of my life, okay? You're ready to take responsibility of your life. You are committed to making positive change, right? You're committed to making positive change in your life, and you hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, okay? If that's you and your ego is in control, or anything else that we've talked about ever, and you want to talk to me about how to change that, then I invite you to book a complimentary breakthrough call with me. And we'll get on the phone for about an hour. We'll get clear on what's going on with you, right? Because that's the first step, is acknowledging and determining what the problem is. We'll also get clear on how you want your life to be instead. And if I can help you with that, I'll show you how, okay? And if not, I'll also tell you how. And if I know someone that can help you, I'll point you in their direction, okay? So I hope this serves you. And I've had a lot of fun. So I'm going to meditate with my corporate friends on the line. Let me put the call information. There we are. I just put the call information in the chat, right? If you're on the line and you would like to call in, right, just click the link or dial into the conference line, and we are going to do my version of the Eradicator meditation. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do it live right here, or I'm just going to do it live right here. So if you're on the line, stay on the line and let's get comfortable, okay? Let's get comfortable and prepare for meditation. So that's a seated upright position with your spine straight, not rigid, but straight, shoulders over your hips, neck long, crown of the head reaching towards the sky. Close your eyes. Close your eyes and connect to your breath. Just bring your attention to your breathing. Notice the inflow and the outflow, in and out, through the nose, if you can. Maybe take a couple of deeper than normal breaths. And notice that you're breathing properly, right? That when you inhale, your belly fills, and that when you exhale, your belly deflates, okay? Versus your chest. If you're breathing in your chest, you're in stress response. And just think about inhaling through the nostrils, filling the lungs down to the diaphragm, expanding your belly. And then deflating the diaphragm back out through the nose. And I want you to put your hands in the patient's mudra. So that's the middle finger, the tip of your middle finger touching your thumb face up or on your lap, okay? But your middle finger and your thumb touching, okay? This cultivates patience. And ego robs us of our patience because our inherent nature is patient. Your eyes are closed. You're breathing normally. Now we're going to breathe on the count of 4. You're going to inhale to 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Continue with that breath, that 4-count breath, for just a minute. I'll watch the time. 4 count in, 4 count out. Four count in, 4 count out. Now continuing with those long, slow breaths. Ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? Just notice what comes. Who am I? Just witness what comes to you without judgment. Just notice, who am I? Who am I? And when nothing else comes, silently repeat the mantra, I am. I am. I am is a complete sentence. I am is who you are. Most things that follow I am are ego notions. It's just I am. Just repeat the mantra silently to yourself for just a minute. And when your mind drifts away, because it will, just notice the thoughts and then return to I am. Now continue meditating gently. I'll watch the time, just a minute or two, and I'll let you know when to stop. Enjoy. Continuing with your eyes closed, stop thinking the mantra and just sit easily. And when you're ready, when it's comfortable, slowly open your eyes. Was the meditation comfortable? Was the meditation comfortable? Yeah. Awesome.
Yes, thank you, Madeline.
Awesome. Who's that?
Ruth Ann.
Hey, Ruth Ann. Good to see you. Glad you made it. So, so feel free to take that meditation on a ride whenever. I'm going to mute everyone again. Whenever you wish, whenever you feel your ego is getting out of control, and extend the silence, right? So I would invite you to extend the silence, the repetition of the I am mantra for, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, okay? And that will definitely get you in the spirit of reining in your ego and bringing more of your true spirit, your true nature out, which is always generous, loving, kind, and patient, right? All the attributes of love. So again, if you'd like my help with that, MadelineCorrea.com/talk. I'll put the link in the comments. Let me know what you think about this meditation, this topic. We're going to talk about the unconscious mind next week or anything else, and we can engage in a fun dialogue. So again, I hope this serves you. It was my pleasure. As always, fun topic. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. And until then, I will see you in the gap. Namaste. Be blessed. Love you guys.